night, chat. Wow. Yeah, I was sitting there like getting ready and talking to 2.0, and all of a sudden, it said like 9:28 on the oven. I was like, all right, I got a minute. Then I come in here, and it's like 9:32, and I'm like, oh, wow. Apparently the sandwich clock is not correct, which I need to fix that. I thought that was set for the right time. Anyways, hello everybody. Welcome to the Thursday night show, the weekly Thursday night show that we host every Thursday night. Because if we hosted any other day, it wouldn't be the Thursday night show. Anyways, welcome guys. My name is Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. And we got a lot to talk about tonight. Some actual serious stuff. Some real serious things. There has been some new updates, very big updates with what's going on with Donald Trump in his case out of New York City. We're going to get into that. We're also going to have some people are rejecting, some guys on death row in the federal prison system are rejecting their plea deals from, or rejecting their clemencies from Joe Biden and saying, no, I need to stay on death row. And you're like, No, they really are. They're saying no, I don't want it. Your money's no good here, Joe Biden. So we've got that. We've got some updates on the 9/11 plea deals for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the rest of his buddies down in Guantanamo Bay. So we're going to get started here in a couple minutes. If you guys are new, we try to give a couple minutes because YouTube isn't the best at notifying everybody. And like I said, some of you might think, well, wait, if people are routinely showing up, don't they show up? And, I still give people time. With that said, though, we are live on Rumble. We are live on Twitter. And for all the 38 people, which right now I assume are ghosts, but still, Elon, thank you. And we are also live on Rumble as well. Logistical Nightmare says Sneed. And I think that's very something we should always take care of. There is sneeding. It's never too early to sneed. We're also live on Locals. And guys, if you don't know what Locals is, I say it all the time. Locals, everything we wanted out of, Patreon. And in fact, it's a lot better in Patreon in that regard. And why? Hold on here. Sorry, Donnie. I'm going to take you out of focus and put me in focus. There we go. We are on Locals, potentiallycriminal.locals.com. It's just like Patreon. You could sign up for free and join the community. You could post on the wall, see my post, comment on other people's posts as well. But you can do that for free. If you wish to support me there, you could do so for $3 a month. You pay for 10 months, you get 2 months free. And with those $3 a month, you get access to live shows. We do 2 live shows a week every Monday night, around 8:30. Sometimes we're like 9 o'clock. I'm just saying, sometimes it's 9 o'clock. And then every Thursday night, so after this show, we get to hang out. And it's always a great time. All the stuff we couldn't get to here, stuff YouTube doesn't want us to talk about there, or just things that really aren't appropriate for the show. And there's a lot of things YouTube says aren't appropriate anymore. So we cover those over there. If you guys use a promo code POTCRIM, you get 1 month free access. You can figure out if it's something you want to do. If you don't, at the end of the 1 month, there's no obligation. So please take advantage of it. And we'll see you guys tonight after the show over on Locals. We do have our sponsors real quick, just getting our sponsors out of the way. We have the Dragon's Treasure, a haven for tea and anime lovers, but not just tea, but also soap lovers and coffee lovers. Although really, I think most of us should be soap lovers. I mean, you shouldn't really not be a soap lover. I guess if you live in you sauna a lot and you then go out and throw snow all over yourself and you have a good schwitz, okay, you might not need soap, but generally most people need soap. So hopefully you like soap. You aren't going around smelling. And then also coffee lovers. T-Man does it all. You guys could stop by and get your choice of coffee, tea, or soap. Use the promo code CRIMINAL. You'll save 10%. And I will tell you guys, I spoke to T-Man, and you guys have shown him some love, especially using the promo code. So thank you very much for doing that. T-Man's a good guy. And that's at thedragonstreasure.com. And then we have MAF-arms.com. Guys, you know him as Fudbusters. You also might know him as Matt. And guys, yes, the premier wind chime dealer in all of southern Florida. Still doing the Yuletide yard sale. And if you guys stick around, Locals coming up, we're going to have some funny stuff to talk about. Got something from Matt. It's going to be kind of funny. And also, we have an update in the Cody Wilson, Matt Rosier saga. There's a preliminary injunction that's been filed by Matt. And we're going to go over that coming up. We might be able to hit that up tomorrow night as well with the Patrick Tomlinson things. Or we might have to wait till Saturday. I'm not sure yet. We'll figure that out. But anyway, those are being done. But yes, if you use the promo code POTCRIM, you get 10% off and 10% off store-wide. And guys, I mentioned it before, in 2024, Matt was giving away all the nude pictures and he would he'd leave a nice lipstick impression on your invoices. 2025 is a new year. Those deals are gone, sadly. But still, you want your wind chimes and the various calibers, you could find them at maf-arms.com. And then last but not least, Stonies. And I want to address the controversies that are out there. Aaron is very upset about Naked Twister, and I get it. But Aaron, you had lightning in a bottle, and I get it. You were trying to keep it down low. But apparently, at 158 East Broadway Street in Rockville, Minnesota, Stonies, your place to go. There is no more Naked Twister. Apparently, we're disavowing it. So that's fine, Aaron. We're disavowing it. It's never happened ever again. I really should be careful about when I put my hand up like that. The way this camera is set up makes it really easy to throw a Roman or look like I'm throwing a Roman. Regardless, Aaron, I get it. You want to disavow Twister, and that's fine. Although it, it was the best thing going on Tuesday nights in all of central Minnesota. But hey. Oh, well, chat, but it's Stonies. You know them. You love them. It's the home of the $2 cans. Sadly, because of inflation, thanks Obama and Biden, it's now $2.50 cans. But you know what? $10 bill, you're still getting tore up, chat. I mean, what's not to love about that? They got happy hour going for that. Tomorrow night, they got the Mystery Machine playing live. And Saturday night, they have Last Call playing live. And that's at Stonies, celebrating 30 years as Minnesota's premier biker bar. And I just don't know why. He was the king of Naked Twister, and he's like, I don't want the crown anymore. So who is going to be the Napoleon of Naked Twister? They shall find the crown thrown into the gutter and plucked it up for himself. Who's that going to be? Who is that champion going to be? Maybe it's one of you out there. Maybe it's one of you. So, is the crown a Baldo? No. And heavyweights the crown upon the cuck. Oh, no, chat. Oh, no. No. Deborah says, I love your Stonies commercials. Well, thank you. I do too. I love them very much. Scott says, what? 250? Yeah. Yeah, times are getting tough, man. It's like Tupac says, man, hard times. Double does it. Don't forget the tip. That's correct. Don't forget to tip your bartender. Or if you're also speaking in the sense of Aaron, don't forget the tip. That's true as well. Don't forget the tip. But yes, tip your bartending around Stonies, guys. They work hard. They're doing great. Aaron is selling the Twister for $100. Aaron, you are welcome for that idea. I am glad to have helped the Steel Toe Morning Show generate revenue. I will continue to make ideas for you, and you could just run with them. T-Money, all that is man says, do you see Kyle, Sean? Well, do you? I don't know. Is he about this tall? Have you seen Kyle? He's about that tall. Anyone seen Kyle? Oh. Yes, big smile. Well, I know now it's Naked Gay Twister, and I'm like, I never said anything about being gay. So, Lawful Lucas says, Heil. Oh. Nico, yes, I did hear you. I also saw you I saw this over on, somebody sent me the clip from Chad Zumach earlier today. You were pointing out 26 weeks in a row, chat. When people might say when you're hosting Naked Twister and you also win the event, is that really fair? It's like you're kind of like the pro. Should you be participating in the event? You're kind of like pool sharking everybody. You're like twister sharking everyone. That sounds really, really awkward when I say it like that. But yeah, it is. It is. But you know what? Aaron's the consummate professional. He sees a twister and he can't help but throw himself out on the floor. You go out there and you paint some, drive down the road and you have some spots painted on the ground. He's going to stop the car and get out and start doing twister. I mean, it's a Pavlovian thing for him. It's a Pavlovian thing for him. Oh. Das Boot says, will he sign your twister game? Aaron seems like he's kind of wanting to do it. I don't know. I mean, you're going to have to run into him. You're going to have to run into him and ask him. Bring it with you. Bring it with you. Parallax has been a member for 26 months. Those numbers, guys, I don't think you understand when I say it. It is very flattering to see those kind of numbers. And I know, guys, some of you guys have been here just as long, and I'm not taking anything away from you, but when you can actually see it, it's a humbling thing. It's a humbling thing. So thank you for being here. And thank you all for being here. But 26 months. Yes. You hear Jean-Francois Gutterpie is going to need a good lawyer soon. Am I free? I don't know if I can help Jean-Francois. I mean, he's going to mash the potatoes and talk about the ethno-state. But that would be so fun. Don't worry, when he gets pinched for mashing the potatoes, known as Mama JF, we're going to cover that. It's going to be great. It's going to be great, chat. And if you don't know who JF is, you're in for a treat. You are in for a treat, let me tell you. Let me tell you. Pseudosnark says, and real quick, guys, we're going to get into the go here in a second. Pseudosnark says, how am I late? And Sean is later super gay. It's one of those mysteries of life. And Bob Tube says, it's only 9/11. The trials weren't important. Oof. Squizgar for $2 says, fuck Amy Comey Barrett. We'll get to that, chat. That's going to be our top story tonight. Squizgar also says, ACB was a mistake. Yeah, we're going to get to that. We'll get to that. But I understand your sentiments. And thank you for being here for 6 months as a member. Nick Kreuzer gifted 5 subs. That's right, chat. We're getting it started tonight. Making this chat green, dropping the H1 green visas. So, Grays, if you got a job out there and you think it's your job to shitpost, the Greens are coming to take it. You are getting outsourced by the Greens. The Podge Greens are coming in, and they are redeeming the chat. We are going to redeem it with these H1 green visas. So there you go. There you go, chat. So we're not praying the gray away anymore. We're just replacing you. The great replacement theory. And Bibliophile himself jumped in for 5 subs as well. Thank you guys both for your generosity and support. Doing your best to make this chat green. Because listen, Grays, you can run and you can't hide. But you're going to get, you're going to get a free green ride. That's what's going to happen here. I'm just telling you. If you scream, it'll only make it harder for you. But thank you guys both so far for your memberships in there. Let's see here. Where is the one I just saw? I wanted to... The Winky Marshmallow, we'll get to that one in a second here. We'll actually catch that up in a second. Nico's been a member 14 months, says, Madzia Potato has been turned into chips. Yes. She's been made into pommes frites. Yes. All right. This one we'll touch on real quick. The Winky Marshmallow says, did the state of July really point their finger at Eric and call him a bitch made studio gangsta? Well, not specifically that, but it does appear that it doesn't appear that part. The state of Texas has dismissed their case against Riley, where he's accused of harassing Eric July. It looks like they weren't able to make service on Eric July. And if you're really a victim on a case, you make yourself available. It looks like Eric, I don't know if he ducked the subpoenas or whatever excuse is, but I will just say, if you do go to the extent of getting somebody prosecuted and then you decide not to testify at the end of it, you kind of are being a bitch. If you were going to do that, you should have already said early on, you know what, let's drop it. I don't want to keep going with this, but Doing it at the last minute like this is kind of a bitch move. I'm just saying, from having defending people in these situations and also prosecuting in these situations where, the week before trial, they're like, yeah, I kind of don't want to do this anymore. And you're like, are you fucking, and you're just staring at the phone like, are you fucking serious right now? But people do that. People do that. It makes you want to scream. So, yes, and not so many words, but yes, you can do those and you could add to it as you wish. Somebody just up there said, hello, SARS. Yes. Hold on here. Uncivil Law is saying potentially criminal. By the way, that's me. Is saying, and by the way, guys, Uncivil Law, Kurt is a great friend of the channel. It's going to actually be covering the oral arguments for the TikTok case tomorrow live. We might get those over the weekend, but I know Kurt's doing them live, so if you want to hear it live, here's your man. Here's your man. He's saying, I was under the impression you could turn down a pardon, but you can't reject clemency. Can you clarify? I think we're going to be going into new territory with this. I mean, the idea was you could reject. I think you have the ability to reject clemency. It seems very like you're going to say, why would you reject clemency, especially if you're on death row? We're going to get to that because these two guys, it's a little weird. It's a little weird, but we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. First things first. We have a. Oh, there's a Danny raid. Oh, hello. Hi, guys. Thank you for stopping by from Danny on Direct. Thank you guys for coming in here. And I didn't know, Danny, if you're in here too. I didn't see your thing pop up, but if you're in here as well, hello, Danny. Hope you're doing well. But thank you all you guys for being in here. It's going to be a great time. We're going to get started. Kurt says, so now I'm just super confused. I am too. Don't worry. But we're going to read the guys' motions because they've handwritten motions on notebook paper. It's going to be great. First things first, chat. Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States of America. Maybe the United States of America plus Canada plus Greenland plus Panama. We don't know yet. We're going all manifest destiny up in this bitch. That's all I know at this point. I mean, Trump wants to do Canada, and I think 54-40 or fight is what we should be doing. That's right, Canadians. We're coming, and we're going to assimilate you. Runkle's going to be our brother, chat. It's going to be great. We'll come get you, Runkle. We'll save you, brother. And Tactical Wisdom, Joe Dolio. Hey, how you doing, Joe? Guys, you can find Joe over on the Council of Future Conflicts. Right now, they're doing them every night at 9, and tomorrow night at 9, I will be joining them if they have availability in room. But Scott and the gang are over there. So, Joe, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. So, let's get into it with President-elect Trump. We are 11 days away from his inauguration, and the case out of New York City is the looming issue. He was already convicted, and you can disagree with the conviction. I certainly do. But the next step is there going to be a sentencing? Is there going to be a sentencing? Well, the long and the short answer right now is if we go back a couple of days, there was a ruling by Judge Merchan. Yes, the great jurist, Juan Merchan. And what did he say? Well, ultimately, he denied all of the decisions on... I'm the wrong one here. Sorry. This one was filed. This is the one about the motion to dismiss and vacate the jury verdict. We talked about this before, chat. This was the one where they said before Christmas they had to introduce all of their arguments and bring them in so he can make a decision. Well, he did make a decision to dismiss and then vacate the jury's verdict. So he goes through all of this. It's 18 pages long, guys. We're not going to go through all of this because it is, I'll give you the TLDR. He says that it's all garbage. He's not considering any of it. So what does he do ultimately? Well, we get to his conclusion, and his conclusion is not a surprise to anybody here. So he finds neither the vacator of the jury's verdicts nor dismissal of the indictment are required by the Presidential Immunity Doctrine, the Presidential Transition Act, or the Supremacy Clause. Once again, I'm not surprised that happened, but it did happen that way. And they say the court further finds the defendant's arguments, whether independent of one another or considered together in support of all these, are unpersuasive as no compelling factor, consideration, or circumstance submitted demonstrate the imposition of the sentence would result in an injustice. You know, I'm not going to lie. I would very much disagree here, because we have issues of immunity that have not been resolved, and you are trying to basically send this guy up the river on that, which, once again, I disagree. The court further finds there's no legal impediment to imposition of a sentence. So it's hereby ordered that Trump's motion to dismiss the indictment and vacate the jury verdict are denied. And it's further that Trump shall appear for sentencing following conviction on January 10th, 2025 at 9:30 in the morning. So that's tomorrow morning at 9:30. Now, here's the interesting part of this, chat. It's also ordered that Trump may choose to appear at the sentencing in person or virtually. So the court's directed to inform them of the preference no later than January 5th, 2025. And I don't believe that's been disclosed whether or not he'll appear in person or not. But they're allowing him to appear virtually. Well, what does that mean? Well, obviously they can't, if the judge can't go, "Oh, I'm putting you in Rikers Island, guards, take him away." Well, if he's virtual, it's like, neater, you can't arrest me. So that's not going to happen. We all know what this is for. Judge Rashawn's going to sit there and dress him down and castigate him for being bad orange man and the threat to democracy. And we're going to hear it over and over and over and over again. That's what he was going to do. This was dated January 3rd, so last week, in the foregoing constitution or the court. All right, so that's what we know so far. That is that. But from there, we have some other updates. They once again there was a further discussion of things by Trump's attorneys, Todd Blanche and Emil Bove. Remember, both guys joining Trump in the DOJ for him being very high up. One of them is being White House counsel. One of them is going to be part of the Attorney General's office. It's going to be some heavy hitters in there that are very Trump friendly. So they did seek a stay, or on the alternative, a motion for an indefinite stay. So what happened? Well, Todd Blanche gave a notice of automatic stay of the proceedings or a motion for an immediate stay, and that he will initiate appellate proceedings on January 6th, 2025. So remember, this came out on Friday. So the next day available, Monday, they're filing their appeal with the intermediate appellate courts in New York. They would argue that the commencement of the appellate proceedings immediately results in an automatic stay of the proceedings under Trump v. United States. And they say, in the alternative, even if the filing does not automatically stay the proceedings, the court should grant an immediate stay, including sentencing. Now, on that same date, these people, remember, the people are the prosecution, the state, opposed the notice. The people argue in substance that Trump's appeals do not automatically stay this, and the court should not grant a discretionary stay. In support, the state argues that the equities tip decisively in the state's favor, and the defendant will not be prejudiced by a denial of a stay. And they also argue that Trump will not prevail on the merits of the interlocutory appeals. Well, is that really, how do you... I mean, obviously the prosecutor's never going to say, well, he might have a chance, but we know that. So the court has considered defendant's arguments in support of his motion, and they find that they are, for the most part, a repetition of the arguments he has raised numerous times in the past. Well, yes, that's because you've completely screwed him over. So they are completely reasserting the issues. And it all goes around the same issue of you being an awful judge and abusing the rights and the immunities he does have. Excuse me, chat. Got all three of those. Got all three of those. Woo. And they say the motion to am I okay? Yeah, I just when I sneeze, it's in threes usually. The motion to vacate and dismiss the indictment and his Clayton motion to dismiss in the interest of justice, both of which are denied by this court on December 16th and January 3rd. So this is all rehashing to him. And he also argues the authorities relied upon are factually distinguishable from the actual record or legally inapplicable. So he's saying every case you cite doesn't apply. So therefore, the motion to stay is denied. Nothing in this order shall be construed in any way to preclude defendant from pursuing all other forms of relief, which he may be entitled. So yes, he did go ahead and seek further relief. And that further relief is the appellate division of the New York Supreme Court. And guys, remember, in New York, your Supreme Court is your trial court, and the Court of Appeals is would be your normal state Supreme Court. This is the intermediate court, so it's the appellate division right here. And I love how it's all stamped up. So what happened here? He filed an expedited resolution here. He was filing this to the New York Supreme Court's incorrect immunity rulings. So what happened here? Well, he did file it, and he did file to expedite this, and the Court of Appeals said no. So he struck out there. The last stop in the state of New York is the State of New York Court of Appeals. And this is the result of that. This came out today. And this is to Todd Blanche. Ooh, that's not good. We got no green. No greens, chat. It was gray. So, dear Mr. Blanche, as a matter of Trump v. Merchan, your proposed order to show cause reviewed by Judge Rivera, who declined to sign the order. As a result of the judge's determination, no motion is pending in the above title at the Court of Appeals. Very truly yours, Heather Davis, and she is the chief clerk and the legal counsel to the court. So what does that mean to her? Well, that doesn't count either. That doesn't count either. So what do you do next? Well, you've gone to the Supreme Court. You've gone to your trial court. You've gone to your intermediate court. You've gone to your state's high court, your Supreme Court. What's next? The Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS. So Trump did have a case in front of SCOTUS for this matter. And, this came out at 6 o'clock today. And there's been a ruling on that. There's been a ruling. And, well, we see in the pending case, Thursday, January 9th, so today, and it's Donald Trump versus New York et al. The initial application was presented for stay to Sotomayor. Remember, she is the justice who rides circuit for the Second Circuit, and that's where New York is. So immediately went to her. And by her, it was referred to the court. Okay. And that makes sense. This one isn't, and not to make fun of Joe, this isn't just Joe. This is Trump himself doing it. This is not saying Joe's isn't a big deal, but this was a big freaking deal. This is a huge deal. Okay, so it got referred to the court and is denied for the following reasons. First, The alleged evidentiary violations at the state court trial can be addressed in the ordinary course of an appeal. And I hate when courts do that, and courts say, oh, well, who gives a fuck? We'll just do it. You can file an appeal. Remember, appeals are for losers. Remember, what do courts of appeals do? They look for a way to uphold the lower court ruling. How many times do courts of appeals do the right thing? Not often. Remember, what's their favorite thing? Harmless error. It doesn't matter what happened because he's guilty anyway. So it's infuriating the Supreme Court would do this. But I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. And they point out, second, the burden that sentencing would impose on Trump's responsibilities is relatively insubstantial. Notice they acknowledge it's a burden. And they're just saying it's not that bad of a burden. In light of the trial court's stated intent to impose a sentence of unconditional discharge after a brief virtual hearing. Now, what's unconditional discharge mean? Literally, they're just going to say, okay, you're guilty. You're not in trouble anymore. You owe no fine. You're not on probation. You're not going to jail. Have a nice day, Mr. Trump. Once again, this is just meant to dress him down. And that way he's been convicted 34 times of 34 felonies. And, oh, no. That's all this is for tomorrow morning. And I do think it's hilarious that the court will cite things that justice delayed is justice denied, or an injustice, no matter how small, is still an injustice. Oh, but here it doesn't matter because it's only like a little bitty thing. Who really cares? It's not that big a deal. It's kind of who cares? Who cares? Who cares, chat? Who cares? Yeah. Who cares? Who cares? So, and this is very, very infuriating with that. And very, very infuriating with that. But that's what's happening here. They're saying, oh, it's no big deal. He's going to get nothing out of it, so it's not that big a problem. Yeah, you know what? Who cares? But remember, this is the Supreme Court. They do this crap all the time. The courts do this. Oh, who cares? It's not that big a deal. Well, I'd argue it's kind of a big deal. So anyway, how did this break down? This was a 5-4 decision. Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. That's who ruled in favor of this. So it was 5-4. And who were the four? Thomas. It was Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. Meaning Roberts, and everybody else, and Amy Coney Barrett went with Sotomayor, went with Kagan, and went with Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yep, so it's 5-4. 5-4. So, yep, and it's not going to get overturned. Now, will they address these issues when he gets through his appeal? Sure, but that's going to be a while from now. It's going to take a long time to get to the Supreme Court. So there you go, chat. Trump is getting sentenced tomorrow morning, 9:30. There is nothing else to stop it. Eric with a K says, but if he's a felon, can he be POTUS as a felon? There's no disqualification. Literally, the Constitution says you must be 35 years of age and a natural-born citizen. Remember, chat, those are the only limitations you can have imposed upon people. What does the Constitution limit? So you can do it. You can do it. Oh. I mean, I understand why they're doing this, but I think it is a completely bullshit reason. But it is what it is. It is what it is, chat, and you know how much I hate to tell you that. Because I hate that phrase. I hate that phrase so damn much. And you also have to be a resident of the United States for the last 14 years. Yes, I forgot that one. Because we have to worry about whether Trump was living abroad. Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate that. Lucky Time says, can he pardon himself? No, it is a state crime, so he cannot pardon himself. The only person that can pardon him is Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, and She ain't doing that. She ain't doing that. Maybe if Lee Zeldin or somebody else becomes the governor of New York and it gets pretty based, that could happen, but that's not happening either. So, no, Trump is screwed on that front. There will be no option for that. He's going to have to win on the appeal. He's going to have to win on the appeal, get it overturned, or get it up to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court boots it. But with that, it'll probably be well after he's out of office. So, it is what it is for now. Eric said he could still be president if he got sent to prison. Here's the thing, though. If Judge Merchan was going to dare order him to go to prison or serve any time, if that sentence spent 1 minute longer, like if it got onto January 20th at all, like midnight onto January 19th, like 11:59 p.m., and Trump wasn't out of there would be an immediate enjoinment by a federal court of that sentence, and the Supreme Court would uphold it. So Merchan is not going to put him in jail. He's going to understand he can only do what he can do. Now, some people were bringing up the idea, wouldn't it be funny if he told Trump, I'll give you a day to report to Rikers Island, but I'm putting you in jail for however long. And Trump said, okay. And then he fucked off down to Florida and just went until he became president, because by January 20th, even if he had a sentencing over his head and a warrant for his arrest, he would automatically, by the rulings and by everything that the courts recognize, is all on hold. So that would be the funny part. He could go into the state of New York and be immune from arrest. That would be kind of funny if it happened. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, Judge Merchan's going to, you're such a bad man, Donald Trump. And he could Trump. So that's probably what's going to happen there. That's probably what's going to happen. So, Fetterman will do it. Yes, this is strictly for political capital. This is just being done to do everything. This is just being done. Eric says, what about owning guns? Well, he doesn't have to, he won't own a gun. So he'll be okay there. Also, because each one of those, I think, is only, like, for example, here in Ohio, there is a felony level. It's called a fifth degree felony, where it's a 6 to 12-month prison sentence. Because of that, you could become a felon and you're still not disqualified under federal law. I don't know how much time he faces. I think it's less than a year in New York. So even then, he still would be eligible to own a firearm. New York might prohibit him, but federally wouldn't. But he doesn't own guns, so it's not a problem. And then how does that affect him going out of the country? There isn't really an issue about you getting out of the country. If, there are times of going into other countries. That's the big issue. Other countries will not allow you in. Like, for example, if you have an OVI, for example, like myself, until you get permission from the Canadian government, they can deny you because an OVI is basically like a felony up there, and they don't allow felons in. So, for example, I have to petition the Canadian government to get permission to enter and be considered like a good citizen again. Depending on where you want to go in the world, that may be a problem. Now, generally, it's like if you're going to, like, I don't know, pick like Tajikistan, that's probably not going to be an issue. But if you want to go to somewhere in the EU, that might be a problem. So it always is very critical to figure out where you could go, what you can do while you have a crime. What's an OBI? OVI, operating a vehicle while intoxicated. Got one of those now. Oh, geez, it's been 20 years now since I had that. So almost 21 years. And there would be and even for Trump, there's a lot of diplomatic issues. Because he is a diplomat, he does have some options, and I think it'd be well argued that the head of state and the head of government has diplomatic immunity. Because certainly an ambassador has diplomatic immunity. And now you might say, well, does that mean you can do whatever you want? To an extent, yes, but then the country just kicks you out. So I don't think it's going to be as big a problem, but it is going to be a concern. And I think people are going to try to make it an issue, but it's going to be making a mountain out of a molehill. Making a mountain out of a molehill. Finite SA says, yes, it's just been revoked. So I got a DUI. Yes, I did. Many, many years ago. I'm a louse. My Irish ancestors will be proud. I talked about this before, but I also realize a lot of you guys are new. But yes, I've had one. I've talked about it before. Apply for an expungement. You cannot expunge OVIs in the state of Ohio because they're under the traffic code, and you cannot expunge traffic offenses, and you also can't expunge OVIs. So, yes, I have a dark past. I've talked about it before. Pretty sure Cedar Rose, you've been around long enough for me to mention it. So, 21 years ago, you're underage? Yep, I was 19. John Doe says, I have a misdemeanor weed charge. Does that immediately grant me entry into Canada? I don't know. You should definitely check out and speak with an attorney on that because there might be situations where it might not be allowed. You're going to have to look. So consult an attorney where you live that understands immigration stuff. So retroactively criminal, yes. Two steps, one steps, saying it. I just saw your picture here. This is great. Yes, oh, brave Gage. It's auto expunged in a bunch of states after X number of years. Not here. Trust me. I can tell you. Yes. I'm what you might call a rude boy, a naughty boy, a roadman, proper roadman. It's like the gentleman where he's like talking about, I know you're all naughty boys, proper roadmen, but I come here with the money. Was my DUI under the influence of a roast beef sandwich? No. What'd you blow? 0.135. So it was a mid tier. It was a mid tier. Wasn't I didn't break into the high tier, but it was a middle of the road one. Wasn't too bad. Let's see here. We got a couple. And we're gonna catch up on some of these here. Base Shaman says the fact the judge chose a Friday to do the sentencing speaks volumes of how political this is. Yeah, I agree. It's being done on a Friday. It's being done to grandstand. So, Fire Knight says, watch him pardon himself for everything. Like I said, he can't pardon himself for this stuff. And I wouldn't want him to be able to pardon himself for state crimes because then that means the president is like a de facto super governor. And I voted for my governor. I don't want the federal government being involved in that. So, people, everybody wants to be a federalist until it's time to do federalist shit. So you got to believe in federalism all the way, chat. Eric Foam is saying, it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter what Judge Merchan's going to say on that. 10KV says, no grays, Sean. I know, we can't let him do it. And High Place Drifter says, Runkles, your uncles. Okay. All right. Did I talk to the police? Yeah, I was a little intoxicated when I did that. So, by the time they actually had me do it, like 45 minutes later, yeah, I was a little less intoxicated than I was. So, yeah, I kind of did. And I don't remember at least getting stopped, but eventually I remember part of it. So, yes, my DUI is almost old enough to drink. Yes, it is. Did I call him Big Kappa? No. Nick's probably gonna do a vague post at least how he doesn't have a DUI. I'm like, I mean, I've never talked like if he would have ever listened to my show, he would have known about it. So, oh well. Sweet Bovite says, could Trump file for a mistrial for how politically motivated the indictment is? He can, but Judge Merchan's already said denied. He's using Nick Ricada's favorite word. Denied. 99999. He's denied it every time. You could make that argument. The Court of Appeal, the appellate court's going to say don't care. Court of Appeal is going to say Lamau, and there's no way it's going to go anywhere. He could file it, but he's just wasting trees at that point. So, just saying that how it works. Tim says, can he get sick and postpone it? Well, he's at home. If he's appearing virtually, I've had clients before. You appear virtually, just fire up your phone and this is the virtual appearance. You don't have to have this kind of setup. I've appeared for court with this setup. Now I blur out the background and everything, but I've also appeared virtually for court just with my cell phone sitting in my car or sitting in like a conference room at a courthouse. So yeah. Can the footage be FOIA? I don't know if there were body cams at that point or dash cams. It was 2005. So can he appear as a cat? He probably can. Yes, he can appear in a bunch of different ways. Yamal says, give me a good reason other than respect for the legal system that Trump shouldn't call his bluff and abscond. I mean, respect for the legal system is all I've got. All I've got. You know, because at least he could say I'm following the rule of law. Did I fall asleep in the drive-thru with Skyline Chili? No. No, Skyline Chili is disgusting. And no, I did not fall asleep in a drive-thru. So, did not happen. He's still under a gag order after the sentencing? No, because the court no longer has authority over him. So once the case is terminated, he's sentenced. And after that, there's no more business with the court. He can say whatever he wants. The court can't stop him. And part of the way the court has authority over that gag order is he could get fined, he could get jailed. But if that all doesn't exist anymore, like, I'm going to fine you. Okay, well, you're not in charge of me anymore. It's very much the same way. If you're on probation and the court terminates your probation, the court can't tell you what to do anymore because it has no more authority to tell you what to do. So that's how that's going to go. He can do whatever he wants after it's over. Well, I don't have to worry about going to Canada, Deanna, if Trump takes it over, because then I can just, I'll be driving through state to state. Yes, it's not a problem. I've just never had a reason to go to Canada, and I just have to pay and get it all done. I've got all the paperwork filled out. I just got to send it in. That's all you have to do. I don't think they'll say no, but they might, because they might not like how I talk about, Fidel's son, but we'll see. We'll see. Do DUIs ever go away? No, they don't go away. Not here, at least. In Ohio, they are an enhanceable offense. So the look back period's 20 years for enhancement. So if you get one within 20 years, you get a second one, the penalty starts stacking up. So no, they don't go away. They don't go away, Chad. If you live in a state where they go away, good for you, because they don't here. Yes. From the Hudson to the Gulf. Yes, from the Hudson to the Gulf. So, and this is going to be the last one. We're going to move on, chat. Trump, Wrestler Town. Thank you for the super chat. It's saying Trump should have a man in black approach him during sentencing and tell the judge to hold on a second and come back 45 minutes later. Yeah, he'd be like, hold on, Your Honor. I got some president-elect stuff to do. Hold on. France is calling. He just mutes it, just takes the call. He's just screwing around. No, I think he wants to get in and out and be done. So we'll find out from there. Let's see here. What's this thing you sent me? Ag, what did you just put in locals? I can't tell. High Plains Drifter says Trump is in Florida. And Larry Legend says that's why he should stay in Florida. Yeah, he should, but who knows where he's at right now? Dollar Tree World saying Ohio doesn't have orange license plates for DUI offenders. Oh no, there are plates for them. They're yellow and red, but they're not mandatory. So yes, technically I could show up to the Canadian border and they could let me in possibly, but I would rather not get rejected at the border and like have to turn around and leave. I would rather go ahead of time and take care of it and plan and prepare. So, even if you do deferred adjudication, you're probably not going to get a deferred adjudication around these parts. They're pretty tough on DUIs. So, yeah. Anyway, we are moving on, chat. Can you buy a yellow and red plate for shits and giggles? No. But there was an issue initially. The Ohio DUI plates looked like old New Mexico license plates, which were yellow plates with red lettering. And there was a time or two where somebody from New Mexico got pulled over, and it kind of caused a little bit of a shitstorm, but then it went away pretty quick. So that's the only issue with the plates. So no, I would never recommend getting one. It would just be a pain in the ass. Okay, so what is... All right, I was just seeing what you guys wanted here. New Mexico plates don't have tags, yeah. So, all right. Oh, and DeSantis said he would refuse to extradite. Well, that's good for him. Good for him. Being a straight G. All right, so moving on from there, chat, we do have an interesting thing out of the U.S. Circuit, U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. And this is the Court of Appeals blocking the September 11th plotters' pleas. Now, if you guys remember, we talked about this previously. And going back, there was the whole issue of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and some of the other guys still in Guantanamo Bay. Remember, their trials are still ongoing. Their trials have not ended. And we're, 24 years, almost 24 and a half years after September 11th. And we're just now, their trial is that ongoing. Well, remember, there was an offer made to give them the death penalty was going to be removed and they were going to get a better sentence. And they accepted those offers. And then we covered this. Everybody got upset about it. But the military judge in charge of it said to the Defense Department, you can't revoke a plea offer. You've made the offer. They've accepted. You can't turn around and take it away. Well, the military said, the DOD and Secretary Austin said, we'll show you that we can do that. So they appealed this up to the Military Court of Appeals. Remember, the military has its own court system. You have your court martial, and then you have a court of appeals there's an Army Court of Appeals, there's a Navy Court of Appeals, and then ultimately there's one for the Air Force. Then there's a Military Court of Appeals that kind of oversees everything. They have their own court system. And then from there, you could always go to the Supreme Court, and that's what happens if you get convicted through things. In this situation, the government went to the D.C. Circuit. And I don't know how that all works out because the way the military commissions are set up, it's not 100% clear how the jurisdictions break down and what courts do have jurisdiction, but they do have it. So they did appeal this up to the D.C. Circuit. And what they did, and this is 28 pages, and we're not going to cover it, but ultimately, they did file for a writ of mandamus, not a writ of Matt Damon, a writ of mandamus, and a writ of prohibition. So a writ of mandamus is to order the court to do something, and a writ of prohibition is to order a court not to do something. So they are two separate actions. They are also seeking an emergency motion for a stay, and that's pending on the rulings for the writ of mandamus and the writ of prohibition, and an administrative stay pending the disposition of the stay motion. So they want the D.C. Circuit to say, until this is all done, everything has to be on hold. Everything has to stop. Everything has to stop. Matt Damon. You guys are awful. Chester Your Fraud says, why is this in the military courts? Because the military it's a military commission is what they're being subjected to. They are not in a civilian court. They are in a military commission, but it's also not a court martial. They are in a military commission. Remember, they kind of had to create a separate court system for this. And that's when you get through like Hamdan and Hamdi v. Rumsfeld. Both of those cases were involved in it. There were a lot of cases setting up the constitutionality of this issue. And those go back through there. Is this even precedented? This is a weird thing where the government's made a plea and then the DOD is involved. I mean, they're making different arguments here. This is not a normal case. This is not a normal case. Now, this is the this is the table of contents, the table of authorities chat, and this is where you cite all the cases that you're looking at here. And then it's interesting because the statutes they cite, the Military Commissions Act of 2009, and then there's also, look, the Black Bar of Transparency. There's a redacted statute that you don't get to know what they're citing. You're like, I kind of wish I knew what that was, but you're not allowed to know. They also have other authorities here. They have the rules for the military commissions that were set out. And they go through all of this, and they bring up their concerns here. They have a lot of concerns about how this was done and what the problems are there. So ultimately, the government, they believe they'll prevail in the merits of this petition, but it will be a Pyrrhic victory unless the court issues a stay of the proceedings. And they don't think this is fair. They don't think it's appropriate. They don't like how this is being done. So they are trying to figure out how to handle this. And this is also their initial filing that they did. You guys notice this is a little different here. This is what they ended up trying to file initially, and then they filed more later. So the issue is, it's whether the United States is entitled to the writ of mandamus, because the Secretary of Defense, remember, Lloyd Austin, the former chairman of the board for Raytheon, remember that's not an issue. The Secretary of Defense clearly and indisputably had the authority to withdraw pretrial plea agreements that had been signed by a subordinate 2 days earlier. So this is the issue. Do they get to break the deal? And very much like the government, can you break the deal, spin the wheel? Apparently, they're allowed to break it. They believe they're allowed to break it. Well, today we learned, at least temporarily, what's going on. So this is hot off the presses chat. This is a brand new hood single here. And this is from Pacer. And it's weird because this is for the DC Circuit. So their Pacer's a little weird, and trying to download this, it didn't let me. But you can see here, this came out January 9th, today. And it's in re United States of America, the petitioner. Remember, when you're filing writs, it's never you're not necessarily suing another party. You're just filing on behalf of the United States of America, which is what in the matter of the United States of America as petitioner. And it was in front of the judges here. And what did the judges say? Well, they decided, in consideration of the petition for the writ of mandamus, the emergency motions, and they talk about this. So what's been ordered? That the motion to exceed the word limit will be granted. Remember, courts have rules. You can only put so much in a case. The clerk is directed to file the response. It's further ordered that the motion to intervene be dismissed as moot in light of the government's representation that it's not seeking a stay with respect to Amar al-Baluchi. Now, he is one of the people that's involved in this. They're not going after him. They're not seeking a stay. Or does that have Baluchi? Yeah, because he's probably Baluchistani. And Baluchistan, guys, is a province of Iran. It borders up against Afghanistan. It's actually, they have a lot of problems there because the Baluchistanis don't like the Iranians, and they want to do their own thing. But they aren't allowed to, so they fight a lot. So they further ordered that the consideration for the motion to stay be consolidated with the writ of mandamus petition. Now, what does all this mean? Well, ultimately, this means what's going to happen here is that the proceedings before the military commission concerning pretrial agreements entered into by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Walid bin Atash, and Mustafa al-Hassawi have been administratively stayed pending further order of the court. So it's done. It's all on timeout. It's not saying it's been granted, but we're just putting everything on pause. The purpose of the stay is to allow the court time to receive full briefing on the mandamus petition, to hear oral arguments on an expedited basis, and to render a decision on the petition and stay motion. The administrative stay should not be construed in any way as a ruling of the merits. So what do we know? Well, ultimately, that any responses to the mandamus petition, not to exceed 7,800 words, and that's a lot of words, chat, will be filed by January 17th. The respondents are encouraged to coordinate and, if possible, file joint responses. Because likely, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Wali bin Atash, and Mustafa Halasawi, they're probably all going to have the same arguments of like, no, this isn't fair. We signed it. It was agreed to. They're just telling them consolidate as much as you can. If you have to make separate arguments, make your separate arguments. But let's not have 45 pages of the same thing. Now, the petitioner may file a reply not to exceed 3,900 words on January 2nd, 2025. So by January 22nd, it's got to be done. Everybody's got to be done briefing and filing. And that at that point, the parties will be informed later as the time and date of an oral argument. So we don't know when it's going to happen yet. Isn't Baluchistan sovereign ground? Well, like Baluchi, okay. Chat. You guys are ridiculous. Baluchistan is like the West Virginia of Pakistan. Well, yes, the Baluchistani people are kind of like in Iran, Afghanistan, and a little bit of Pakistan. Yes. So, although I think more people would say the federated tribal regions are more like the West Virginia of Pakistan, from what I've heard from people. So, when are you and Worski live again today? Are you and Worski live again today? Hodor, fuck you, asshole. Oh my god. So, do you file writs? Oh, the dark mode is based. Yeah, I don't know how to make it show up like that all the time, but I like it. So, guys, the 9/11 plea deals are on hold. It's a little bit of a sticky issue for now, but we'll find out. I do think ultimately they're entitled to the benefit of the bargain they sought from the government. The government offered them a deal, and I think they should have to be. It should be upheld. Nobody cared until everybody got mad. So I don't think it's fair in this situation. If you make a deal, you should have to stick with the deal. A job well done says, the world is a big place over on Twitter. Yes. Yes. Ag says a sticky issue might not be the best word for this. Yeah, well. So, like I said, guys, this is an interesting thing. This is dragging on. And I do think it's pretty cool because we get to learn and we get to talk about the military commissions. It is for those of you guys who've been in the military, the UCMJ is out there, and that's a whole different world from civilian law. And this is a separate thing from civilian law and the UCMJ. It's its own thing. So it's very, very interesting. It's very interesting. Yes, no changing the painting. Yes. Jeff Sheehan saying, do you think Marshawn will try probation? No. I think this whole idea that it's going to be this, how do they phrase it? The unconditional discharge. No, they're just going to cut him loose. They're going to cut him loose. Why weren't the guys made part of the concrete at the September 11th memorial? That's not how we do stuff. Ag says, I'm confused with military law, but interested. Well, here's the thing. Military law is actually pretty good. And believe it or not, the military was better at affording you protections and safeguarding your civil rights and your constitutional rights than civilian law was. The military, long before, recognized your right to remain silent, that you had greater protections against search and seizure. You had Miranda rights. Like, there's a lot of things the military and the UCMJ afford you that it took us a long time to get recognized 100% as unmistakable constitutional rights as a regular citizen. So the military did protect you in a lot of ways, but the military also has a lot more authority over you at the end of the day. But that's because that's the military. So, so we had Miranda before Miranda in the military. Yep. Yeah. And if you guys go back through, and if you read the Supreme Court when they're dealing with constitutional issues, they will look to the UCMJ and military law to see how they've handled the issue before, because it's the same types of problems arise in the military as they do in the civilian world. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting. 10KV says, not my military, not my building 7. Well, You're in Canada. It doesn't for now. For now, it's not your building 7. Soon, it will be your building 7. Oh, soon. Tell us about the tribunal, the military commissions. I need to do a little more research on those, but yes, the military commissions are a very unique thing. I had done a whole lot of research on them before because one of my professors in law school was involved in helping. Was one of the people they consulted. So I'll have to reach out and see if I can find all the stuff I had from before because it's really neat to learn about how it was all done. All right, guys. So from here, we are going to move on. I'll just make sure I didn't miss anything else. Oh, hold on here. Pseudosnark is saying, what if the Fed slow plays everything New York wants from the Feds? Need a bridge grant? That's unfortunate. Oh, I'm sure that's going to happen. But New York will say, fuck you, we don't care. They want the orange man that bad. They want their orange whale. And Wrestler Town says, to be fair, everyone in New Mexico plates is likely to be drunk anyway. Jeez. Oh, jeez, Louise. All right, chat. Hold on, we got to cancel on some of these. Got too many tabs open. I got to cancel them as I go. Otherwise, I get a little caught up on things. All right, here, chat. So, from here, we had an interesting story. This one's just, you got to keep in your back pocket. Keep in your back pocket because it's like, interesting. Not saying I believe in a conspiracy, but, just keep your tinfoil tight. Keep your tinfoil tight. So, but if you guys remember the whole Pizzagate thing, well, this guy here was the person who went into that ping pong pizza place in DC and shot it up. So the Pizzagate gunman was fatally shot by police in North Carolina. And this guy, back in 2016, he went to the Comet Ping Pong Pizza restaurant in DC with an AR-15, and he shot it up. And if you guys remember, Planet Ping Pong Pizza was part of what is believed to have been part of the, the cannibalistic pedophile ring that operated in the District of Columbia among the political elite, and it was where some of the children would have been murdered and processed. But yes, Edgar Welch is the guy who did that shooting, and he did it in 2016. And the interesting thing was, and I don't know if you guys, I don't remember this happening like this, but and if you guys don't remember Pizzagate was the conspiracy theory that alleged a sex ring was in the back room of the restaurant, and it led to the leaked emails between Hillary Clinton and John Podesta, where they talked about different kinds of pizzas and younger pizzas, and having hot tub parties with children and eating pizza in the hot tub. A lot of really fucked up shit that made no sense. Remember, the Podestas are creepy sons of bitches anyway. Creepy sons of bitches. So the emails were about the holding a fundraiser at the restaurant, but the conspiracy theorist on 4chan, the hacker known as 4chan, and Le Reddit said it was all a ruse, and the emails were encoded in a way to talk about the sex ring. Well, if you guys remember those emails, some of those emails were fucking weird. God bless Seth Rich for leaking all that stuff out, though. He did God's work. You're out there somewhere, King. You're out there somewhere, but you did God's work. So anyways, Welch decided to show up, and he shot up the place, and he couldn't find it. That doesn't mean it didn't exist. It's just they hid it very well. So he ended up pleading guilty to interstate transportation of weapons and assault with a dangerous weapon. He was given 4 years in prison in June of 2017. And at the time, his judge was Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was the district court judge. He had 3 years of probation. So he would have gotten out with off supervision within 2024, it seems like. So what happened? Well, he ended up getting shot in North Carolina. So he was somewhere, he was in Kannapolis, North Carolina, when he got pulled over. And the officers recognized the vehicle, having arrested him before, and knew he had a warrant for a felony probation violation. So he already had a new felony charges. And they recognized him in the seat, and they asked him to get out. But when he opened the door, he had pulled out a handgun and it pointed at the cops. And they shot him after he refused to drop his gun. So, just interesting how that works out. Just like it's interesting how it works out. Yeah. It's Dale Earnhardt's hometown. So it just makes you think. It makes it just like, gets that noggin jogging just a little bit. Just gets that noggin jogging. So, yes, this sounds like the free, body cam. I don't think it's out. I don't know if they have body cam. This sounds like the freest man to ever live. Yes. Yes, very true. Sar, I am fucking Indian, Sar. That dude is under the thumb of the Fed boys. Just look at him. Yeah, I'm just saying. I don't know. It's very weird. Huh, very weird. Very weird, I think. Just a little bit weird. Just a little bit weird. Like I said, don't you don't need to put a lot of weight on it. Just keep that in the weird file for now. We might not need it for later. We might not need it for later. Okay, so what do we have here? Moving on, guys. This one's gonna be, if this goes to trial, this is gonna be some gruesome stuff in here. This one's gonna be pretty gruesome. I don't know if you guys saw this. But that guy Sal says, is it technically funny and weird? Well, it's weird. I wouldn't say it's funny. But yeah. Oh. Scott X says, didn't he coincidentally shoot the Comet ping pong computer hard drive? Or is that an urban myth? I don't know. I've heard that too. I think it's just an urban myth, but I heard that story as well. Yes, adrenochrome for all. Well, everybody in the elite. So, and just for the record, I do not have information leading to the arrest of Hillary Clinton, just to make it clear. Just to make it clear out there, if you're out there keeping score. Just to make it clear. All right. Now, guys, this thing here, this is going to be pretty. This one's going to be pretty. This one, I am not like, this one's going to be pretty bad. If this goes to trial or we learn more about it, this one's, oof. So this one's going to be, if this got to trial, this would be pretty rough, I think. Newborn babies at a Virginia hospital were having mysterious injuries, and a nurse got arrested. So these babies were in the NICU and like they were suffering broken bones. And, this woman was like, I want to hold my son. And they're like, sorry, your baby has a broken leg. And these babies were born at 28 weeks and only weighed 2 and 3 pounds. And they had been hanging on. And after 7 days of birth, the healthier twins' leg was bruised and broken. And, and the baby had a broken leg. How did it happen? Well, it wasn't from birth. And the dad, and listen to how fucked up this is. The dad of these babies was worried he was going to get blamed for it. So he decided not to hold his son. Because you know what they would have done? They would have turned around and pointed at the parents. Like, think about how fucked up that is. Think about how fucked up that is. A mom and dad don't want to hold their baby because they know the hospital is going to blame them and get involved with it like that. That is just, that's how fucked up the system is. So more than a year later, they might have figured out what happened because there were a series of mysterious injuries in newborns. And they arrested a former nurse, Erin Strotman, and charged her with malicious wounding and felony child abuse. There's like 7 potential abuse cases, which means those are the ones they know, which means there's probably a lot more that either she didn't severely hurt anybody, not from a lack of trying, or nobody noticed the injuries. So that means she probably hurt a shitload of babies. And they say at this time, they're not admitting new patients to the NICU so they can do investigations now. I mean, this, oof. At the arraignment, the mom broke down and, yeah, I mean, these people, like, they came there to have a baby and, that's rough. The hospital's hurting your baby. So there's hundreds of hours of surveillance footage on this. It's going to be very interesting to see how this shakes out. If she did it, or was it her? Was it other people? Were they working as a team? Was there a group of people going on to determine what happened here? We don't really know. We don't really know. Maybe it turns out she didn't do it. These babies were just injured and nobody noticed. We don't really know at this point. We don't. Everything could be possible. But they said like that there's probably going to be more babies identified as having issues. They found out the hospital suggested his left tibia may have been fractured while getting an injection. That's the hospital's answer. Oh, he was getting an injection and we accidentally broke his leg. You're like, yeah, I ain't buying that. Now, hopefully these hospitals have had to write fucking checks, because if they're, whether or not somebody was intentionally harming them or the hospital was just that negligent or incompetent, they better be scratching out checks. A bullshit answer like that is hilarious, though. Children's Services was called, and then later on, at the hospital, it was closed. The hospital said, "Oh, it was the injection," and Children's Services like, "Okay, cool, bye." And that's the thing. This isn't Richmond, Virginia. This isn't like in Hee Hawville, Virginia. So the idea that this is, somewhere where like they couldn't figure it out is a little ridiculous here. So this woman has been accused of, injuring these babies, and it's going to be very interesting to see if she did it or whether or not she did it. But all the injured infants are boys. So that's interesting. That said, though, CPS did say in the letter saying he was a victim of abuse, but they don't know where. So it will be very, very interesting. It'll be very interesting. So we will, this one will be very interesting to follow along with. So she faces a maximum of 10 years of prison for the felony child abuse and up to 20 years for the malicious wounding charges. And that's for each count. So she's looking at a lot of time, But so far, just one baby is all she's been charged with. But gosh, if that goes to trial, that's going to be a pretty grody trial. How many babies? Around 7, but they don't know more. So, yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, maybe she did it. Maybe she didn't. Maybe it was a group of people. Maybe it wasn't her. Who knows? So, how many babies? At least 7, but they think probably more. The baby had cocaine in the system and a broken leg. Yeah. I know. Har. Yes, they used a titanium needle with a pneumatic drill drive for the injection. Yes, Tim, you are correct. No, you see what happened? The police took a broken leg and rubbed it on the kid's hair. Oh. So, oof. It'll be very rough. It'll be very, very rough. Black Twitter's screaming racism. She white. She white. She a white girl. She a white girl. I mean, she ain't black. I don't know how that works. But okay. Oh, going on from here, guys. This is very interesting. So New York City has a big problem with traffic, and it's the Big Apple. They got a million cars and they don't have a lot of room. Traffic is a big issue in New York City. Traffic is a big, big problem. So New York City in response, I'm sorry, reading chat. You guys are ridiculous. So they have a lot of cars. So they introduced a congestion tax starting this year. Remember, we're 2025. In case some of you don't remember, we are in 2025 now. As John Oliver would say, it's 2025. Well, they've introduced a congestion tax, and meaning by just going into the city, you're being charged for that. Basically, you have to pay a toll just to get into the city. And and as the American tradition of tax evasion, and not to mention gun running and beating and harassing elected officials, which return to tradition, Chad. Just saying, return to tradition. Tax evasion is another one, and people are avoiding these taxes like a boss, like a boss. And Maddie, we'll get to your tip in a second. But people are coming up with ways of avoiding the congestion tax. So your New York City drivers devise clever ways to conceal their license plates as the toll take effect, including James Bond-style plate flippers, which that's kind of like, that's boring. There's more creative ways to do this. There's more creative ways. So and it's wildly unpopular, the congestion toll has gone into effect. So the Post spotted a bunch of these plates in action. So they're going to show you some of the things here, but it's a $9 toll. It's $9 you want to go in the city when you're entering Midtown Manhattan. So if you're going on to Staten Island, it's not a problem. Or if you're in Brooklyn, it's not a problem, which thank God, because I never go, like going to see family. That would suck. Or go to my grandma's funeral, I had to pay a toll. But to be fair, when you're in that area, everything's a toll road anyway. That's why you just take an easy pass and just, you get done and you get back home and you're like, God, I don't want to know how much the tolls were. And holy shit, it's a lot of tolls if you guys aren't from there or been through there. So many of the ultra plates were sighted near the perimeters of the zone on Sunday when the fee went into effect. And guys, remember, Sunday would have been the 5th, and that's when everything goes into effect. So they've come up with basic ways. The most is covering up or modifying the single digit. And that's the easy one. You can scratch out a letter or number, like a car seat with an L painted over in white, and attempt to blend it with the background. So you see people scratching up the plates so the plate readers can't tell what's going on. You can take the letter E and 0, you can cover it up with gray paint, or a very common way, if you're out, you could take mud and slap mud on a license plate. Because you know what? It's not illegal to have a dirty license plate. It's just, sorry, officer, I went through a mud puddle. Or, sorry, officer, my license plate's all worn out. But the toll readers attempt to spy license plates. And if they misread it, they can't charge you. So here's another one. There is a bolt is stuck on to disguise one of the numbers, like a magnet or a sticker. There's all kinds of ways people are coming up with to do this. Now, I think it's a little garbage that they don't just have some of these blocked out, because I'm sure the government is going through here and checking these out. So they're dry snitching a little bit on these, which I think is kind of shitty. But people are getting creative. People are getting creative. And here are the tolls. You can use an easy pass, or you can have a toll by your license plate. If you want to come across the Queensboro Bridge, it's $13. If you want to come across in the Queens Midtown Tunnel, it's $24. If you want to come across the Brooklyn Bridge, it's $13. Or you come across from, if you're coming from Staten Island into Brooklyn to Verrazano Bridge, it's $20. You want to come through the Holland Tunnel, it's $31 to the Lincoln Tunnel. $31, chat. Ah! Woo, lad. That's, yes, 99999. Benjamin says, I would take different roads as much as possible. There's only so many ways into Manhattan, dude. There's only so many ways. You're like, that's as bad as going to Sanibel Island. Yeah, tolls in Florida are awful too. Yeah, that's on top of and guys, this is on top of the tunnel's toll. Each tunnel and bridge can have its own toll. So you're paying an additional surcharge on top of it. This is well, Joe Loy says the public transport sucks like in the UK. Well, if you try to ride the subway, somebody might light you on fire and throw you on the tracks and kill you. So I don't want to ride the subway, and I'm sure as fuck not riding the bus. So there's, yeah. Return to the ducks, yes. Amphibious vehicles, that's the way to go. Amphibious vehicles, that's the way to go. So, whew. Yeah, keep your head on a swivel. Lucky Lime says they charge 13 at the Queensboro. Oh, the last dude charged me 20 last time. Just going off of what I got. Yeah, Nico says Staten Island gets really screwed. It's 2019 plus 9. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of money, guys. It's a lot of fucking money. Yeah. So it's a shame someone should run an awesome unlicensed ferry service. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's gonna happen there. I don't think that's gonna happen. Yes, and that's in US dollars, not in Australian dollars or Canadian dollars. But guys, this is expensive. So, but like, here's the problem. Funeral homes have raised their cost. Lyft and Uber have raised their cost. The city bikes, like those bikes you can rent, are going up, hoping that they can force people to take a car. The police and fire departments claim it'll slow down the response time. Sure it will. But there's all kinds of things here. But this is another way. A coded license plate, or you slap some shiny things on it as a way to blind it. Because when it'll take the picture, it'll just be a big flash and you can't read it. There are creative ways to get around license plates. There's all kinds of ways. This is an easy one. This is the old school way of doing it. You can just bend your license plate. And you're like, look, officer, I must have backed over like a parking bump or something, or a bollard or something, and my plate got bent. Sorry, I'll fix it. There's so much stuff there, and my hat's off to the New York City residents of being based and fighting back. Being based and fighting back, chat. That's what it's all about. That's all it's all about. There's license plate covers. I think those are illegal in New York. So but you're going to get stopped right away with a license plate cover. That's the problem. If you're too obvious, you're going to get ticketed right away. But if you happen to have dirt or garbage, or you have like an extra bolt, like attaching your license plate, or it's scraped and banged up, they don't know necessarily it's bad. But if you have a license plate cover, that's going to be pretty obvious. Yeah, plate covers are illegal in a lot of places. Yeah, you're going to be in trouble there. You're going to be in trouble. Sleazy says, ask someone on the motorcycle how to cover plates. Yeah. Oh. Bumper damage is pretty common in New York City. Yeah, it is. That's why you just ding up your license plate and see if it works. Cosmo says fake plates. You got to be careful about fake plates, though, because if the police have a license plate reader on their car, which I think a lot of NYPD cars do, it'll run your plate to say, it'll say bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Or maybe you end up making up a plate where it happens to be on an actual car that doesn't match. Now you're getting stopped and now you're fucked. So, no, there's ways where you fuck around with what you have. That way you have some plausible deniability. That's how you do this. You take your license plate and beat it up and you're like, look, I didn't know it was broken or damaged. Sorry. Or it was like that yesterday. Or I guess it just happened. But no, you don't go out and check your license plate every 5 minutes. That's how you get around this. Like I said, Chad, I'm not telling you to break the law. I'm just saying there's ways you can do it and what arguments you might be able to make. And Maddie B says, yes, whatever you do, chat, don't shine lasers at the cameras. Whatever you do, don't shine high-power lasers into the scanners. That certainly is not something you should do. I don't recommend that in any way. I do not condone such actions. I do not condone you chopping them down like they do in Britain. I don't condone that either. So it's not legal advice. No, it's not legal advice. Oh, Ron and Tony, obscure destinations saying we don't call you potentially criminal for nothing. Well, there you go. And Hodor says, how long until they circumvent this with some RFID bullshit? That's probably the next step, but then, there's also ways to jam RFID signals. Wrap your plate in Mylar or something. So, like I said, guys, you have to take advantages. You have to take advantage of the system there. Yes, be law-abiding, ungovernable citizens, chat. Yes, become ungovernable. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong, as they say, the Democrats say, with causing good trouble. Nothing wrong with that. Dewey says, I wouldn't condone melting the cameras with termites either. Well, I don't think the cameras are made out of wood, but if they happen to be out of wood, yes, termites would be very bad. Otherwise, if they're made out of metal, yes, thermite would be very bad, chat. Don't pour thermite on the cameras or attack them with drones. Yes, thermite paint. So, just be careful, chat. Just be careful out there. Be careful. Oh, hold on here. I clicked on the wrong box. Okay, guys. Moving forward, we have how are we looking tonight? Hour 31. We actually might get done under 2 hours tonight. I'm going to be very impressed with myself. So we've got a bit of an update here. Let me see. Actually, hold on here. Let me just check. Nope. Okay, yes, here we go. So, hold on here. Okay, so this is something we've heard about happening overseas, but it is a big thing involving our arch nemesis, not Russia, China. So what has been going on in China, chat? Well, China is a authoritarian communist country and governed by the by the Chinese Communist Party. It's also known as the People's Republic of China. And you're like, it's not really a republic, though, but it's what they call themselves. And if you guys want to remember West Taiwan is always part of Taiwan. So if that's how you'd like to refer to China, I don't think that's a big idea. I don't think that's bad. Remember, there's East Taiwan and then there's West Taiwan. So, and real quick, somebody's saying, did I beat Russell's cuck flag from YouTube? No, Lone Star Medic, they denied my appeal. So don't worry, Russell, don't you worry, buddy. We're going to cover the rest of what you filed lately. I'm coming back for you, buddy. I'm coming back for you. And I'll make sure to cover up your address, you little snowflake. Don't worry, I'll cover it up. So then you can't cry and drool, or I don't know if you can tell the difference between your drooling and crying, but I'll make sure that nobody knows your address, even though you put it on all your emotions. So don't worry, Russell. Don't worry. But thank you for the message. I appreciate it. Russell Greer. He is suing the farms because he's an idiot. Yes, there is new Russell content. There's a lot of Russell content. So, anyways, guys, we are moving on here. Malcolm Combs says, don't use a media blaster with baking soda on your plate. Yeah, that wouldn't be a good idea either, chat. That would not be a good idea either. So anyway, here's what's happened, chat. I'm going back to what China does. Well, they operate secret police stations. Now, what exactly do I mean by a police station? Well, they have what's called the Ministry of State Security. That is their intelligence arm, and that is also the arm that operates outside of China. And they basically have police stations where they keep tabs on Chinese people who have immigrated to America, whether it's temporarily or permanently, because you still have family in the old country. And they were operating a secret police station in Lower Manhattan. and he basically acted as an illegal agent of the Chinese government. So, Chen Jinping pled guilty to conspiring to acting as a government or agent of the Chinese government, People's Republic of China, and he was acting as part of the Ministry of Public Security. So what they would do is they would go around and harass people, and they would. It's not like they could attack you, but it's what they would use to keep tabs on people. But it's interesting how this worked though, because they basically established the first known overseas police station in the United States on behalf of the Fuzhou branch of the Ministry of Public Safety, Public Security. And the police station occupied an entire floor in an office building in Chinatown. That's like, it's an entire building, an entire floor in a building. So, like, these guys were there to keep tabs and harass, and certainly, I'm sure they abducted people or roughed them up or scared them or threatened them. Like, yes, there's a FRAR violation there, yes. But yes, there is all kinds of stuff they do, and this is not the first time they've done it. These have existed in Australia. They've been documented in Australia. They have them in Toronto and Vancouver. Yep, KLB is correct. They have them everywhere. Everywhere. They are everywhere. They're not everywhere to me. Espionage, if you really want to go wild. Yes, but they're not. There's not as much espionage as it is harassing and intimidating the people here. P-Dub says, could the answer be RICO for once? Well, as long as they satisfy the RICO predicates, possibly. Hella says, you admit there is in Australia. Well, of course. Winston says they're in Boston too. Well, I think at this point, yeah, they're now everywhere. They're now in a lot of places. So it's very shitty what they've been doing, and they were using to harass and scare people here because they would say, we'll report what's going on back to the homeland, and your aunt's gonna have a problem, especially if you're speaking out against the Chinese government or you're doing anything the Chinese government didn't approve of, like you said bad things about Winnie the Pooh. They would report on it. So it's good that these people are gone. And yes, no more China number one. No more China number one. And it's always, chat, remember, when it comes to China, when you're not sure, just remember about China this one simple thing.
Donald Trump, don't trust China. China is asshole.
And that's right, chat. China's always an asshole. China's always an asshole. Never trust the Chinese government. It's part of the cycle in which China sends students to other countries and drags them back after they're educated. Yeah, that's part of it too, but a lot of it is just keeping people in check. You're not allowed to talk bad. So they have an entire system here. Kia Patrick says the Jews have their own private police in New York City. Okay, the Sham Rim is a little different. That's more of community enforcement standards. And yes, there's like a Sharia, like a Muslim Sharia patrol thing in New York City. And the NYPD have a field office in Israel. A little hypocritical. I'm pretty sure the NYPD office in Israel is like acknowledged as like the Israeli government knows they're there. A little different. Not much, but a little different. Just a little bit. Sergeant Dornan says, I know several Chinese students that don't want to return to China. Well, there's a lot of them that do. And Snoop says, especially when we're working for the CCP, right? Yes. Western governments can only dream of such control. Well, don't give them ideas. Phil Smith says, China. Yes, China. China, chat. All right. Going on from there, guys, there are two big Supreme Court cases going forward that are going to be up for distribution for conferences tomorrow. And the first one is Snope v. Brown. This is the case out of Maryland. It's challenging the Maryland assault weapons ban. Basically, if you weren't aware, Maryland has an assault weapons ban. They had the weirdest assault weapons ban for a long time. In Maryland, you could own an AR-15, but it had to be like an M16A2 style AR-15 with like a government profile barrel, and it had to be like the heavy version of it. It was very weird how they did it. But Maryland had an assault weapons ban. It was really kind of kooky. Since then, they've upped their game. And the Fourth Circuit basically said, fuck Heller, fuck everything. We're not applying Bruin. And now the Supreme Court's going to have to figure out what they're going to do. So it was oddly specific. Yes, it was. It was very fucking weird. It was a very, like, I remember the first time hearing it. I was in college and I'm like, that's a very odd thing, but, you know, okay. Yes, the H bar. Yes. So, with that said, the Fourth Circuit basically said, we don't care. We're not applying Bruin. Fuck all of you guys. So now, it's in front of the Supreme Court. And then there's another case. And this is the other case. This one's actually an interesting one out of Rhode Island. Ocean State Tactical versus Rhode Island. And in Rhode Island, what happened is Rhode Island had a ban on large capacity magazines, which are just standard capacity magazines of 30 rounds. And not only were they banned from sale, they were banned for possession, and not future possession, but all possession. They were retroactively banned and confiscated. So there is no grandfathering and there is no exemption for them. So we're going to get some pretty interesting questions answered, hopefully. And it looks like the Supreme Court probably... That's knock on wood, chat. Knock on wood with me. Knock on that wood. Whatever kind of wood you got. That these get accepted and cert is granted, and that they're heard. Because right now they're just sitting there. They're just sitting there waiting. And obviously, these would fly in the face of Bruin. They would fly in the face of Rahimi. They'd fly in the face of Heller. And they would get overturned. And if Rhode Island loses, that means California, Colorado, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. They all go bye-bye in the car. And then if Snope v. Brown wins, all of those would come tumbling down. So, Keelam says, not got simulated wood. Yeah. Well, please. Bob says, have the cases gone to conference? Yes. They have gone to conference. So these are petitions for cert. They have not been granted yet, but they've been distributed for conference. So Ocean State's been distributed a couple different times. Remember, chat, the longer you're getting distributed for conference, your odds are getting better and better that you might have a shot. So we'll find out. But it's really, really good news. These guys have both been up for a couple of times. Snope has only been distributed for conference. This will be the second time, not the third time. But we'll find out. I think there's a lot of good options here. So like I said, these two get in. Oh, boy. Whoa, buddy. It's going to be bad. What's going to be bad? Eric says Runkle and Danny are aiming crossbows at you. Yes. So it'll be good news. I think it'll be good news. It'll be very, very good news. Porcelain Thunder says, this isn't even the dumbest thing in Maryland. That would be the governor. Well, there you go. So fingers crossed, chat. Fingers crossed. Whatever you got to do. If you got to knock on Morningwood, whatever you got to do. Whatever you got to do. Whatever you have to do. Old Nine Red says, as a Marylander, the SCOTUS needs to deliver us from the stupidity. Well, I hope so. Mystery Sniper says, I still have mine. Well, good for you. Nothing, as long as you will not comply, as long as you know what the costs are of that, by all means, don't comply. So we'll find out. Now, these might get postponed again and kicked out again. We'll see. We shall see, chat. But it's A man can dream. A man can dream. And then the last thing tonight, chat, is going into Biden's pardons. Joe Biden did his pardons and clemencies a while back, and he did a ton of them. He did about 39 pardons and about 1,500 examples of clemency and reprieves. Remember, chat, a pardon is a full relief from all penalty and punishment. Clemency is merely just a commutation of your sentence, meaning if you're in prison, okay, well, you're done now. You don't have to serve any more time. Or, for example, if you're on death row, you're no longer in death row. I'm giving you a reprieve. Now you're just serving life without parole. So people did this. And remember, Joe also did this for a lot of Chinese spies, including the Chinese spy with 47,000 images of child pornography. Yes, that's a real thing. I'm sure. Never mind. I can't even say it. I'm not even going to say it. So it's been an issue. It's been an issue with some of these. Well, now 2 guys in federal custody, they've decided to say, we don't want them. We don't want them. They don't want commutations. And there's 2 guys, Shannon Agofsky and Len Davis. They're both incarcerated at the U.S. Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana, way down in southern Indiana, way down near the tip. And they both maintain their innocence. So they don't want to accept the commutations because they are fighting their cases. Now, what happened with both these guys? So they're both on death row. They're both on death row. And we're going to go over their motions in a second. But Agofsky was sentenced to death in 2004 after he was convicted of stomping a fellow Texas prison inmate to death 3 years prior. He had already been serving a life sentence in murder and robbery dating back to a 1989 abduction and slaying of a bank president before he was convicted in the 2001 prison killing. So remember, robbing a bank is a federal crime, but also kidnapping is a federal offense. So guess what? He got a life sentence, and then while he was in federal prison, he killed a guy. And yes, killing another inmate is a great way to get the death penalty. So Agofsky claims he's innocent of the bank president murder and disputes how he was charged in the stomping case. He's like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Len Davis is a former New Orleans police officer. Shocking, a New Orleans police officer in federal prison, I know. Who's convicted of hiring a hitman to kill a woman after she filed a complaint against him. And he got charged with multiple counts of civil rights violations. So these guys have filed motions in federal court, and they're very interesting. So they went to the Southern District of Indiana, and this is interesting. Like, if you can reject them, how is this going to work? Because normally somebody on death row would be like, cool, I want out. I want off the row. And these guys are saying, no, I don't want that. Now, here's the thing. Terre Haute is where they do execute people. That's where Timothy McVeigh was executed. So this is where it all happens. So the first guy, Shannon Wayne Agofsky, he has an emergency petition for injunction from the commutation and the request of appointed counsel. Notice he wrote this all by hand, so he's got a bit of an issue here. And he brings it up at the end why he had to do this. And he says to the clerk, please file the emergency petition. He says, I've been in prison for 30 years, so I definitely qualify as being indigent. But if there are still fees, please refer them to me and I will take care of it. And he says, apologies for writing by hand rather than typing. We've been locked down and I have no access to a typewriter. As this is time sensitive, it will have to suffice. And that's the thing, chat. Like, you get locked down in prison, so you don't always get access to a typewriter or a word processor. So sometimes you got to belt it out by hand. And if you want to write him and express your appreciation of his penmanship, there's all his information. I'm sure he would appreciate you being a pen pal out there. So he comes here to respectfully request the court block the commutation of his death sentence and prevent him from being resentenced to life in prison. So he talks about in 2004, while already serving a separate prison sentence, The defendant was convicted of killing another prisoner and subsequently sentenced to death. It's way better writing than Sarah Boone. Yeah. Timothy McBased. Oh. It's better handwriting than Ethan Ralph's motions. So anyway, he says the main reason for the sentence was not the facts of the case. It was I was convicted of the multiplicitous and unconstitutional way in which the charges were filed, which confused the jury. This is evidenced by the fact the jury found the prosecution had failed to prove intent, which would legally mean the killing was manslaughter, yet they still listed first-degree murder as a death sentence. They still voted for first-degree murder. They say the defendant is housed mainly in the death row at Terre Haute, Indiana. And he says, while here, he has worked tirelessly to prove the actual circumstances of his case, as well as to establish his innocence in the original case for which he was imprisoned. After many long years, he is finally on the cusp of doing so. That's it, Chad. After 30 years, he's almost got it figured out. On December 22nd, the defendant became aware of the publicity stunt enacted by President Joe Biden, in which he commuted the death sentence of 37 federal prisoners, and he was part of this group. He says, I never requested the commutation. The defendant never filed for commutation. The defendant does not want commutation and refused to sign the papers offered with the commutation. It has been long recognized that the death penalty qualification process for capital cases, which assumes that jurors are willing to oppose a sentence of death, also tends to produce conviction-prone juries. That's not wrong. He's correct. Getting people who were willing to impose a death penalty are likelier to convict. This heightened level of risk is the reason why the doctrine of heightened scrutiny also exists, which enjoins judges everywhere to act with an increased level of care and consideration to ensure there are no mistakes when a life is at risk. Multiple charges inflicted upon the defendant, which led to his death sentence, were made possible by the Anti-Terrorism and Death Penalty Act. And that is a real thing. The Anti-Terrorism and Death Penalty Act is a real thing. The AEDPA is a real thing. Guys, it's actually funny. Joe Biden, there's a clip somewhere out there on C-SPAN where he is proud to have created so many federal offenses that were death penalty eligible. He was proud of that. Remember, Joe Biden in the early 90s was very law and order. And he says, this ill-considered piece of legislation was authored by none other than Joe Biden. It has wreaked havoc on death penalty litigation ever since, and it has. It's been a mess. The Anti-Terrorism and Death Penalty Act is if you Google it through court searching dockets, your Google's going to explode. And ever since then, findings of justice and difficulty for many, including the defendant. He says the current commutations are equally ill-considered. They fail to address any of the factual problems related to the death penalty, while inflicting additional problems on those who did not desire commutation, thus making it seem to be nothing but empty virtue signaling on the part of an outgoing president. This guy's pretty base, but remember, you're already on death row, so what the fuck, I guess. To force his commutation on the defendant would be to the defendant a victim of Joe Biden for a second time. Oh, yeah. The defendant's sentence was imposed under the heightened risk of a death-qualified jury. To commute his sentence now while the defendant has active litigation in court, it's to strip him of the protection of heightened scrutiny. This constitutes an undue burden and leaves the defendant in a position of fundamental unfairness, which would decimate his pending appellate procedures. It's for these reasons he files a petition. He is not seeking favors. He merely wishes for his case to play on court as it was meant to, with the protection of heightened scrutiny and without the interference of partisan politics. Now, here's the thing. Let's say he gets his wish and he loses. Is he going to sit there pounding on the door saying, "No, Joe, let me have it back, please. I don't want the needle"? It's very, very interesting. He says, therefore, he wants the following. He wants an injunctive relief to prevent the defendant's sentence from being commuted. He wants appointed counsel to aid in maintaining this litigation, which is necessary as the defendant is subject to transport at any time and may be unable to respond to the court on his own. And that's true in the federal system, especially. Boom, you're moved. You get you get minutes notice sometimes. Like you speak to Larry, guys, listen to Larry Lawton on his channel because he did federal time. I think Big Herc on Fresh Out, he talks about it too. People, when you're in the federal system, it's like you're getting transferred. So how do you figure that? How do you fix that? Because I've got a pending case, and you need a appointed counsel to help you, the public defender. So, Snoop says, yes, it's the Chicago of Indiana. Oh, no. And 2 Steps, 1 Steps says, don't you have to request the pardon anyway? No, you could be pardoned on your own. They can voluntarily bestow one on you. Plead the Fifth says, this was on the news because nothing happens in Indiana. Yes. So, J-Rock says he's going to strike this stream like Russell for doxing him. I think he'll appreciate I think he'll appreciate it. Chinny says, how does Biden pick who to pardon? It sounds like in this case, he just went boom, 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 and picked it. And I don't know. Doesn't sound like they really picked anybody specifically. Lucky Lime says, maybe this guy just loves prison. Well, if he's on death row, he's not going to like it very long. At some point, he's going to make the long walk. You guys are just like so based. Yes, Hodor. He's like Brooks. He doesn't want to get thrown out of the library. He's like, I can't go out. Maybe I can interview him, chat. That'd be pretty cool. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Joe Biden wrote the Patriot Act a few years before it passed. Yes, he did. Yes, Missouri Battle Flag saying USP Terre Haute houses a special confinement unit for male inmates who have been sentenced to death, as well as the federal execution chamber. Most inmates sentenced to death by the United States. Yes, it is. That's where you go. Death row and based. Oh. John Doe says, where did you read that? I want to look it up, I believe. I'm not sure which part you're talking about. And DF88 says, Safa death row inmate. Safa. Yes, Big Herc is a real one. Yes, he is. Green Top Machine and Tool LLC. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. What kind of stuff do you make at your shop? Machine tools could be a lot of things, depending on there's Lewis Machine and Tool, and they make precision paper punching equipment. So I'm curious to know what you guys make if you're still there. He pardoned all the federal death row people except 3. Yes. Yes, Suffa Warden. Yes. So that is the first guy. This is his getting through here. And he prays the court will institute the relief herein. And this is what he did. So the United States Marshals package and screen to get into remember the Marshals in charge of courthouse security. So it went through the x-ray and the magnometer, and it went to the clerk's office. And this guy has all his stuff written up here. And this gets filed to show that it was served and it got here in time. That's what they do, especially in pro se cases, to show all of that. And then this was his message to the clerk. Nice squiggle. Nice squiggle. So the other guy, his is a little more Sarah Boone-ish. But it's still got that flair. It's got that je ne sais quoi to it. Now his statements are his statements of what happened to him are a little interesting too. So United States of America versus Len Davis. He's got the same thing. Emergency motion for injunctive relief. And about the commutation ordered by American President Joseph Biden. reversing the death sentence to life in prison. And he wants a request to have co-counsel appointed to assist the prisoner in his matters. So he wants the same things. And he says, and he talks about it. I was indicted in 1994 and a superseding indictment in 1995 in the Eastern District of Louisiana for a couple different charges: conspiracy against rights, deprivation against rights. These are civil rights offenses, chat. While acting under the color of law. That's at 18 U.S.C. 242. And then also 18 U.S.C. 1512, tampering with the witness, victim, or informant. So what did he do? He had someone killed. So he was convicted and sentenced to death by lethal injection on all counts, along with 2 co-defendants. One of which was sentenced to life and another who was sentenced to death, but is presently serving a life sentence after a reversal of sentence. So he said in 1999, his conviction for his 18 U.S.C. 1512 charge was overturned and dismissed by the Fifth Circuit, along with the death sentence, and converted to reverse the convictions on both these counts. So it all got reversed. In 2005, and you're like, oh, well, that sounds good. Well, it doesn't get better, though, because in 2005, he was retried and resentenced to death by lethal injection. So he got a round 2, and he went 0 for 2. Actually, to be fair, he went 1 and 2. He got his appeal. He won the appeal, but then they sent him back. He's always maintained his innocence and argued the federal court has no jurisdiction to try him for civil rights offenses. I don't think that's really going to get anywhere, but okay. So he's always maintained that a death sentence, to having a death sentence would draw, I can't read that. Anyway, draw attention to the overwhelming misconduct of the Department of Justice in his cases. On December 33rd, 2024, Davis learned that the United States president was forcing an unconstitutional life sentence on him via a commutation order. He didn't request it. I didn't request it, and I don't accept it. He submits that there are a host of constitutional violations associated with the executive branch attempting to sentence the prisoner to life without his agreeing to the continuance. He says, all to be discussed in further entries. Well, thank you for making sure we knew that. Thank you for making sure we knew that, buddy. I'm glad you clarified that for us, that you were going to take care of this for us. Yes. Ag says he killed Kim Groves. Well, he's accused of hiring a hitman. So Green Top's saying we do Ken Metal and Haas. Well, there you go. Well, thank you. Yeah, I make precision tooling and die equipment in short run production. I also do repairs of things that lead times too long to wait or are unobtainium. Awesome. There you go. Well, if you guys ever need anything, look up Green Top Machine and Tooling. You might be having what you're looking for. Or they might be really far away and too cost prohibitive, but maybe they're around the block for you. But thank you for becoming a new member. I appreciate the support. So he keeps on going here, though. They say prisoner Davis refused to sign the documents presented to him today. So he wrote this like the day they got presented to him, acknowledging his acceptance commutation. It is unknown for sure if this will make this request moot. Of course, court will immediately be notified if something changes. This motion is followed in an abundance of caution. So, that's not a bad idea, really, if you're worried this is going to fuck over your chances of appeal. Although it's been 20 years since you were reconvicted, man. I don't think you're going to get out of this. So, who knows? So, he does advise the court we have video conferencing here on death row and can also receive legal phone calls from court. The defendant submits that the arguments made in this request are solely for the purpose of proving the president's attempt to commute defendant sentences is clearly full with constitutional problems. And this court has sole jurisdiction over the executive branch's decision. Well, you don't have close enough. And the defendant removed from death row, which would is located in the state of Indiana, which is true. He's in the right spot in the right court. So, for these reasons and more, the defendant thanks court for its prompt attention to this fast-moving constitutional conundrum. And it is. It's a fast-moving constitutional conundrum. He's very correct. The case law on this issue is quite murky. It is true. Can you revoke your consent? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Signed by Len Davis. I mean, yeah, attention court emergency response request. Yeah. So there you go, chat. It's interesting. It is interesting. It's interesting what they want to do here with this. And yes, Bato is right. He gets to softball. So, yeah, it's interesting. Plea the Fifth says, why is he shouting? I don't know. Why are you shouting? Oh. Your reply is a little way up there. Yep. Am I going to open a sandwich place and sell sandwiches and sandwich accessories? No. Bella says, hold up, Judge Engeron got removed? I wasn't aware of that. No, I don't see anything saying that. I just Googled it. Nothing right now. So, don't get my hopes up. That'd be hilarious. These guys are better lawyers than Nick. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, though, I mean, it's a lot of people are better lawyers than Nick. So, Rod Breton saying there's already precedent for this. To an extent, there's precedent, but it's the idea, does this ruin their ability to challenge their convictions? Like, all the whatever it is they're trying to appeal, does that negate their appeal? That's the issue. And I don't think that's been set up. That's their bigger issue is, is this going to ruin if that makes any sense, is that, is that the bigger issue here? Because if it doesn't change what they're doing and it doesn't, it might affect them, and that's not clear. So if it does affect them, now here's the problem. They're going to have to make that argument, and the court's going to say, no, it doesn't. And then if it says, no, it doesn't, then I'm sure they'll say, fine, I accept it. But I don't know at that point if they've refused it, and now Trump is president, do those commutations disappear? Because let's say the court says, no, you don't have, if you accept it, it doesn't change your status. You're still appealing based on where you were at the time of your conviction. So you retain all those rights and protections and those enhanced standards of whatever it is you're trying to do. Now, let's say the court says, we agree with you. You don't. Or if let's say the court says, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Let's say the court says, we agree with you. If you accept this, you screw yourself. So they reject it, and then they keep their appeal going, but then they lose. Are they allowed to go back and get it? No, it's going to be done. But let's say the court says, you guys are worried about the wrong thing. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Now, remember, Indiana is in the 7th Circuit, so this eventually would get to the 7th Circuit. Maybe it goes to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says, no. If you accept the commutation, you're good. You don't have to worry about anything. Whatever you do, you're fine. You're playing with house money at this point. By that point, Trump will be president. Biden will no longer be. Can they go back to those commutations still and accept them? I don't know. So the idea of, yes, you can refuse a commutation, sure. But what happens if you accept that commutation, I don't think is clear for them. And there's a problem. So it's not the issue of accepting it. It's what's it going to do for me later? And what's it going to hurt? What are the secondary and tertiary effects of it? So, Patik has already won. So yeah, he's just preserving his arguments, and but he also might preserve them and then not have the ability to ever get it back. So we don't really know. We don't know. I think it's very interesting that they're preserving them this way. Larry Legend over on Rumble. I'm glad you guys were over there. He's saying putting money on your license plate to avoid tolls is not legal advice. It's not. Plates get money, man. Plates get money. Tim Beatty says, accept or decline, it's still commuted. No, you have the right to refuse it. So, can you refuse and then rescind your denial? I don't think that's ever been tested. Yeah, I don't know about that either. Because remember, like I said, if the courts tell them, listen, bro, don't worry about it, you're good to go, can they then go back and pick it up and sign it still? And I don't know if they can. That's not an answer I think is clear. But let's say like it might still not exist anymore. Or, if they go to, let's say the court says, you're right, you can't accept this because it'll fuck up what you're trying to do. And they do their appeals and then they lose. Obviously, I think that would be a clear-cut case of, no, you can't go back and get the benefit of the bargain you rejected. But I could see them then turning around saying, no, I still want the commutation. And then they'll probably file a whole case on that and probably drag out the clock so they don't get executed. So they're making a pretty big gamble here. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. Like I said, I just thought this was really cool. They're refusing it for very interesting reasons. So, Ag says, I posted the Judge Nips lose in the local chat. Fox News published it. Oh, okay. Let me see here. Okay. Okay, so Engeron was on the case, then he got removed and put back on. But by the end of the day, they had put him back on the case. It sounds like there might have been just a, I don't know. It sounds like it's not a big deal there. So Engeron's going to get blown out of the water anyway. The Court of Appeals, we covered that chat. The Court of Appeals was not sympathetic to them. Old Line Red says, my personal instinct is that you should be able to accept the commutation and still fight for your innocence. But wow, I don't really know. I would agree with you. You should still be allowed. I think you should be allowed to. But remember, federal courts are very elaborate on your status. It's a very big issue. The federal courts are ridiculous with this stuff. John Doe says, maybe he's afraid of the tolls he'll get for commuting. Boo! Boo. Kelly says, what are the precedents here? On this specific issue, the second issue of I can reject clemency in the commutation, but what happens if I accept it? That's not actually clear. That's not clear from what I understand. So, we don't really know what'll happen there. Yamal saying, is there a forced chance to accept it, talk, and eventually the Supreme Court comes in and makes new rules? Yeah, I think, but the Supreme Court won't force them to take it before it gets to them. I mean, this is going to be an interesting thing. This is something they're probably going to have to rule on because, like, how does this work? Murky waters indeed. So, all right, chat. We got a couple more things to get through here. Squizgar gifted 10 subs. Oh, let's go, chat. More green visas coming in. More Pudge Greens coming in. Pudgeting our way through. Yes, you will have to redeem, Grays. You will have to redeem, Saw. And SB Sellers gifting 10 more subs on top of that. Grays, you'd better keep running. You ain't going to have a job before this is over. You ain't going to have a job before this is over. And the Wrestler Town with 5 subs. Oh, gosh. Grays, it's an onslaught, Grays. You got nowhere to run. You better surrender. Just become green. It'll be easier. Just let it happen. Just let it happen. It'll be easier on you, I promise. I promise. And then Lorelei for $10. Thank you. Says, I saw you're an actor now. Magnificent acting. Well, thank you. I'm not a classically trained thespian, but I try. Thank you very much. Kimbo's saying, Aaron has officially come out and stated that Steel Till Morning Show is a gay dating show and his hosts are all potential mates. Oh, no. Oh, no, Chad. I don't know if I like that. Oh, boy. Okay. So, well, chat, that is it. We got through this in 2 hours. Took us a little bit longer to land that, but we are here, chat. We are done. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's been an interesting week, and tomorrow it's going to be even more interesting to see what happens with Trump, and then from there, what happens in those Supreme Court cases. So keep that in mind, chat. It's also going to be interesting to see what happens in LA. If you guys aren't aware, that fire is just burning. It's uncontrolled. There's another fire that's burning up in the hills in the west. And then there's video of like people setting random fires in the middle of the city. It's like not looking good. It's not looking good for LA. It's not looking good, man. It's like, whoa, bogus. Bummer. As Bill and Ted might say. St. Theodore and St. Edward from San Dimas. With that said, though, chat, just keep your eyes peeled. It'll be an interesting day. Tomorrow, I am doing Future Conflicts at 9 o'clock. And then probably around 6 or so, we're going to go through, actually, it might be like 6:30. It's Friday, so we're going to start a little early. We're going to go through the Patrick Melton updates on his case against the Milwaukee Police Department. If you guys don't remember, Patrick Tomlinson. Patrick Tomlinson's cases with the Milwaukee Police Department. Remember, he's suing them because he got swatted, which allegedly he may have done or helped to orchestrate against himself. Shh, chat. Shh. Don't talk. Don't spread that theory. It's just a theory. Anyway, he may, as a result of getting swatted, the police showed up. So it's very unique. He's suing the police department for showing up and then getting manhandled by a big, burly black police officer that he was not able to grind up into pepperonis and eat. As his normal pastime with melanated men, grinding them up into pepperoni. So we're going to be covering that. There are some updates there. It's very interesting. That'll be about 6 o'clock. Like I said, 9 o'clock tomorrow. I will be on with Scott and the guys from Future Conflict. Not sure what we'll be talking about. I'm sure it'll be interesting, though, in the meantime. And then Nick Kreuzer says, I will be hiring my cousin, Sar. You motherfuck. You bloody motherfuck. I will redeem. You will have to redeem. I will make you redeem, Sar. We all glow here. Yes, we do. Aaron gives us wrenches for a $5 donation and a dick pic via Signal. Well, I don't do that, chat. I don't do that. So, yes, one of the arsonists have been arrested. Fedorowski says, relax, Sean. I will help you do your comb over if need be. Thank you. I appreciate that. Rachel K says, I'm from California and I can say this. Because people vote for idiots in LA. Yes. And the hotel vouchers in North Carolina are running out with the blizzard about ready to hit. Yep. FEMA's just doing a great job taking care of all those people down there. So FEMA cannot be contacted. I know they're unavailable. It's so interesting. Are we still on for locals? Of course, chat. We are going to head over to potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Got to go check on 2.0 for a minute, but we will be over there. Will be a fun time. Only 200 more subs until a 25-hour stream. Oh, no. Fruitfly says, what happened on civil law? Well, Kurt was here. I'm assuming he's out doing stuff. It's like 10 o'clock his time. So I'm sure Kurt's doing Kurt stuff. But guys, remember, tomorrow Kurt will be covering the TikTok oral arguments. Those should be very interesting. And
I still owe you guys a 24-hour. I don't owe you a thing. All right, chat. So with that said, guys, thank you all for being here. I appreciate everybody over on Locals, over on Twitter. Still 282 Ghost over on Twitter. Thank you, Ghost. Thank you, Elon, for inflating my numbers and my sense of self-worth. Over 500 people still here from YouTube. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Aaron says, I'll host the 50K sub party at Stoney's. Then we'll float down the Apple Septic River in a tube. Yo, don't you know? Well, so guys, with that said, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you everybody on YouTube and Rumble. And also, guys, you just comment. I appreciate that. The memberships, thank you so much. And the super chats, truly, thank you guys so very much. Episode 148. We are approaching episode 150. It's fucking crazy. We're getting there, chat. We're getting there. That'll be a fun night. That will be a fun night. So, chat, remember until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Unless you happen to be those guys down in Indiana, which I'm like, woof. I don't know if you want to accept those commutations, but good luck down there. Good luck down there, chat. And take care, everybody. See you guys.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy?